first time when I ran, I was very scared.
Who knew you could find love during the election?
The bigger question is, will the party feel me again? The pantun is a work of art. And works of art cannot be forced, can only be inspired. When we get closer to the election, we become caricatures. You're either the hero who will come and save Singapore, or you are the villain and destroy Singapore. Everyone will look at him and be reminded of, the famous actor Shah Rukh Khan. And everyone will want to buy from him.
Fadli Fawzi first stood for election in 2020 with the Workers' Party. While the party has not confirmed where he'll be standing in the upcoming election, he has been spotted walking the ground in the Marine Parade constituency. Now, what drives someone to stay the course in politics, even if the results haven't always been in their favour? Luckily, Mr Fadli is here on The Usual Place to share his experience. Welcome to The Usual Place, Mr Fadli.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I have to ask, you're currently serving as the Deputy Organising Secretary for the Workers' Party.
Yes,
and you've been with the party since 2013.
Yes, that's correct.
So I have to ask, will you be standing in the new Marine Parade Braddell Heights GRC?
Well, I think the bigger question is, will the party feel me again? I think that's up to the party. Currently, yes, it's correct. I'm working in Marine Parade Braddell Heights GRC, formerly in Marine Parade GRC. But I'm not sure where I'm going to stand. I leave that to the party, at the party's discretion.
The WP actually, the team was fielded in 2020 and it got 42.26% of the votes then. What were some of the lessons that you took away from your first GE outing?
I think the one big lesson that we took, the most important lesson is that there is an appetite in the large segment of the population who wants a rational, credible and responsible alternative voice. Myself, I was a first-timer. My team was mostly first-timers, yet they gave us a good response. And this was confirmed in our house visits, where the residents were actually very friendly, and they gave us drinks, and they were very welcoming. But, and this is very important, I think it's also important for us not to fall for recency bias. And what I mean is project the next election based on the last election. And why I say this is because you just have to look back at the previous election, 2015, where, I think the results showed that we cannot take any votes for granted. And another data point would be the presidential election, where Mr Tharman got a resounding win. And of course, anecdotally speaking, I think a large portion of people who voted for Workers' Party, I think voted for Mr Tharman also. So I think overall, I would say, yes, it is very encouraging, and it gives us impetus to go into the next election, but we must always never take things for granted and work hard to get the people's votes.
Okay, so just to clarify something, the presidency is very different, selecting the president is very different from selecting MPs at national level. So what's the connection there?
I think it just shows that people at the end of the day look at the quality of the candidates, look at the message. So that is what we need to also pay attention to, because voters are quite discerning. So we will not take their votes for granted.
So what made you say yes to running in a GE? Because you started with the Workers' Party in 2013, and then 7 years on, they asked you to stand as a candidate. So why did you say yes? I
think in 2015, the election sort of showed me that if I wanted us to progress, I will need to step up. And also I think I had something to offer because of my background. I was a policy development officer for Islamic Religious Council of Singapore, and then after that I shifted to become a lawyer, and it was quite a tough transition, and so there was a lot of things I had to consider financially, and I think that this life experience gives me some insight into the issues facing people who are also transitioning. And I think that complements the Workers' Party's platform of supporting, people in their life transitions with their policies.
So let's talk a little bit about that transition, since you mentioned it was a bit difficult. What was the day-to-day difficulties that you faced that made you realize, like, hey, we could look into this further?
Yeah. So firstly is the financial transition. I had to finance the JD. I went to the JD program and I had to finance my own education. So I think that I got by because I did part-time work, part-time tutoring work. I also did I also borrowed money from friends who I paid back, and of course I got an interest-free loan from Mendaki. So these are the things which I think were very useful, especially the interest-free loan. I think that's a concept that we can bring to the larger public, and let them improve their skills through this kind of loans.
In 2020, when you stood for election, what did your family say about you standing? Because you're married, you have and you have a 2-year-old daughter right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what did they?
Okay. So when I first stood in 2020, I was single, and my father had passed away. So it was only my mom, and my mom was very supportive. I think partly is because she was. I think partly because she knew that I was in the party for 7 years, and I think she was comfortable with the party. Now, actually, I'm married after the elections, so. Unlike some other WP candidates and members, my wife knew that I had run and I could probably run again. And actually, in an aside, it's an interesting aside, I think I might not have gotten married if I didn't run for the election.
Yeah. What happened there? Did you meet her on the walkabout?
No. So actually, before the election, we connected. We connected because through a dating app. But she was busy with her life, I was busy with her life, she was busy with her job, and I also was busy with her job. So we didn't really follow through. So, but on the nomination day, I think, when I was announced, she congratulated me, she wished me good luck. Even though I lost, she also was still supportive. So then we went on a few dates, one thing led to another, and I think slightly more than 1 year later, we were married. Then after that, we were blessed with a child. So even though I didn't win the 2020 election, I think...
You won her heart?
Yes, I won her heart.
Who knew you could find love during the election? What a cute... that's a really neat, cute story.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you have a daughter and she's 2. Yeah. Does she kind of like... I guess she'll be too young to understand what you do on the political front, right? Yeah. Or do you tell her... What would you tell her when you're away, walking, doing the walkabouts and stuff?
Oh, okay. I think she's a bit too young. And, sometimes when I go on walkabouts, I always see families. Sometimes I see families playing with their children. And I get this pang of guilt because I think of my own girl and, how I miss her lah. And sometimes when when I go back, she's already asleep. So maybe I sing a lullaby and that's it. Yeah.
Oh no, that's a poor thing. Like you can't get enough FaceTime with her. Like how do you make up for that?
I think I make up for that by being present when I'm there. I always try and try to pay attention to her, and sometimes I guess it's because I have my own practice. I think that's a way for me to manage the time between my politics and taking care of my family.
So let's talk a little bit about you and the WP. Why do you choose WP as the political party to join versus say any other options?
Well, I think at the root of it, I've always had a soft spot for the underdog. I felt myself as part of that struggle, always having to fight harder, face more difficulties to earn your place in the world. But so when I was young, I always went for the rallies. And the one important point is during the 2011 elections. The time Aljunied GRC was a very hotly contested election. So I'm a Aljunied resident. I live in the Eunos division. So I pay attention and I looked at their manifesto, and many of the proposals I agreed with. For example, the proposals on unemployment insurance, their proposals on discrimination against laws against discrimination, and I thought I can get behind those proposals. So after the 2011 election, fortunately, the WP won, and I lived very near, so I was in Eunos. So I started volunteering in MPS, in grassroots work, and I liked the people there. I made a lot of friends there, and honestly, it felt like home because it was so near home. And I think after that, it was just a natural progression into the party.
So earlier you mentioned that there's an appetite for rational opposition, but meaning that do Singaporeans still want the opposition and have a PAP government? But going on that note, SM Lee recently said that if people keep voting for the opposition, then they will affect the PAP's ability to function effectively. What's your response to that?
I think what we are seeing here is actually just is just a normal course of a maturing democracy. I think that we are still in the Westminster system. As long as the PAP has the majority, and they have a super majority now, but as long as they have the majority, they can still pass legislation. It's not an issue. Only thing that the issue is that should they be able to change the constitution? I think that's where we are at. But I don't think that they are hindered in any way, and I don't think that the Workers' Party wants to hinder them. We only want to. We do not oppose for the sake of opposing. We only oppose when we feel really strongly that certain bills should not go through.
Okay, so I want to get a little bit of insight into how you go from volunteering from the MPSs to walkabouts to getting selected as a candidate. Like, do you have chats with the leader of the opposition, or do you put yourself forward? How does that process go?
I never really put myself forward. I think, so I started volunteering in 2013. The next election was 2015. I was asked to do work in the background, like write speeches and all that. In the meantime, also because I was a resident of Aljunied, I became a town councillor. And those things, plus MPS, I think showed commitment to the party. And I think again, I can't say how they choose candidates, but I think that might have been a factor in deciding whether I was a candidate or not. I really don't know.
Okay. So you have this tagline on your social media account saying that you're a Singaporean who believes that a healthy society should not have just one voice, right? What do you define as a healthy society and not just one voice?
I think that quote really is a great reminder of the importance of different voices in society. So take from my personal experience, right? When I'm working with Team Marine Blue, which is the Marine Parade team, we have very frank and honest conversations, open conversations, and where we come from different perspectives to handle certain issues, different issues, things like how to organize things or how to deal with certain issues when they crop up. And I think that is a healthy working environment, a healthy organization. So to extrapolate what I mean by a healthy society, right? I think that is something, those kind of dynamics are necessary. Things like, having an open debate, and being willing to accept different perspectives. And I think this, to further illustrate this, I think the person who captured this sentiment most beautifully locally is, I think, none other than Professor Tomiko, when he said, he used this phrase, loving critic. I think everybody knows this phrase. And I think that exemplifies the acceptance of critique and dissent and alternative views that a healthy and functioning society needs. I think that what is most important is that people get an understanding of what the voices are actually saying. I think that is the most important. And that is why we need an open society society in which people can access information easily. I think, and a society in which we can talk freely, and then they can decide which voices we should listen to and which voices we should not. And I think that is what happens in a functioning democracy.
Okay, so should you be fielded again, what will be different for you this time around?
Two things I can think of. The first thing is, the first time when I ran, I was very scared. I was
why?
really very scared because...
Like scared where? Like to make the speech or like...
No, just to run, to be declared a candidate. Because, it's a leap of faith, up to nomination, you don't know what waits you in nomination day, right? And the fear really crystallizes when, the day you are going to be a candidate arrives. And, but I knew that I wouldn't back out because I didn't want to let people down. I said I would run. I didn't want to let people down. I didn't want to let my team down. And I didn't want to let the party down.
Can back out, meh?
I'm not sure, but you know what was helpful? Which was very, very helpful for me. So I was reading something, and then I came across this pantun. Pantun is a Malay poem. So in this pantun, it was by a politician in the 60s. And he was in prison. He wrote this pantun when he was in prison. And basically in this pantun, he said, even though he's going through hell in prison, right, his only wish was for the rakyat, the people, to experience heaven. And I think that really touched something in me. And it's like, it reminded me that a lot of other people, they have sacrificed a lot more, and yet they still have that fire and idealism. And I think I was so inspired by that pantun that I had to reply to that pantun. And I recited that pantun on nomination day. And it was like a catharsis speaking to my fears. And so what will be different is, I think I'll be less scared if I get fielded in the next round. So that's one. I think the second one is also an important thing because, when I first started volunteering in 2013 to 2020, right, I was mostly in UNOS, which is an incumbent ward. I was doing mainly MPS. The residents came to us. We would try our best to write letters and help them. I also did some policy work in the background. But after I ran, I was mainly in Marine Parade GRC. So that was a contested ward. The problem with that is that we don't have any infrastructure. So what we had to do was we had to manage volunteers who came. We had to organize party events. But most of all, we had to learn how to talk to residents and get people to talk. It's different when people come to you. You need to get them to talk. So I developed different techniques to try and get people to talk. So my favorite technique is because I own cats. So I will always look out if the owners own cats. So I know it's easy to see because they'll mash up their windows and doors. And then so when I come, the first things I say, hey, you own a cat. And then cat owner to cat owner will have topics. It breaks the ice. So and it's a bit of a jinx now because one of the things I do sometimes is I bring treats to give cats.
On your walkabouts?
Yeah, oh. But the problem is the days I bring the treats, I never find the cats. And the days I see the cats, I always remind me that I didn't bring the treats. So I hope one day I can give the treats to the cat on the walkabout. So I think it's good karma. Yeah.
I want to go back to something you said, which is about, you have to get people to talk to you. Were people afraid of at that time when you...
No, but...
Yeah.
But I think you have to put yourself in the residents' shoes, where you just came back from home. Like if you came back from home, then what do you want to do? You want to sit down, you want to relax, you want to, spend time with your family. And then this guy comes up and knock, asks you, hey, good evening, workers' party on a visit. Do you have any issues or anything? So I think it's very understandable that people just, they don't feel the need to talk to you. So you want to understand them more. You want to understand their issues, their problems. So you have to form some kind of familiarity, some kind of comfort level. So that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. It's not that they don't want to talk to you. It's just that it's a normal kind of situation, I think, of people just coming back from work. But, as I said, we learn to find ways to talk to people. Another way I do is I try and find out if they have kids. So because I have a kid, so I try and oh, you have a kid, right? And there was one time where I went. There's Ubi, there's a block in Ubi Grove. So, and I realized that all of them, or at least many of them, send their kids to the place I send my kid to. It's just because it's near. I live in, so I send my kid to Ubi, and it proved to be a very good communication point. And I learned a lot about the challenges facing young parents that day. So I'm very grateful.
So in 2020, nomination day, I think you caught a lot of people's eye because of the thing you did, which you mentioned earlier, which was recite a pantun.
Yeah.
Will you be redoing that at nomination day again if you stand this year?
I strongly believe that the pantun is a work of art. And works of art cannot be forced. It can only be inspired. So I apologize if I'm not inspired, but on nomination day, but I honestly feel that you cannot force it. You need to be inspired.
Oh, it was a spur of the moment thing.
No, I would say partly because on nomination day, the tricky thing on nomination day is that you only have a short time to say something, right, and catch people's attention. Who are you talking to? Either nobody or everybody. And what I mean by this is either people are going to forget your speech or everybody is going to remember it because you did something. I'm sure we all can think of nomination day speeches which didn't go too well. So I thought if I wanted to make an impact, it has to be a short speech. And because I also feel that, when in Malay tradition and Malay culture, when you open a ceremony, it's always nice to open with a pantun. And I thought, how great is it if I open the election with a pantun, right? And yeah, so I think that was the thing that also caught people's attention. But I think the inspiration came earlier. Firstly, from trying to overcome my fears, and that feeling, and also from the pantun that I read. So it's a mix of things. So inspiration doesn't only come in one place; it comes from many places.
Okay. So speaking about the Malay Muslim communities, should you stand again, run again, and be elected into Parliament? What are some of the issues we could potentially see you championing for the community? I
think the most important thing that we need to look at, and I said this the previous election, when we were talking about issues of the Malay Muslim community, right? I think that it's important to frame the questions correctly, because I think in Singapore, many issues which are actually issues of poverty are framed as community issues, and I think I would want to make that distinction very clear. And the reason why is because I think that national bodies should address issues of poverty, and community bodies, and it should not be left to just the community. That's, I think, a very slight shift on how I would want to do it, how I think about issues of the community. Yeah. So
on an issue that has come up, that the community feels very strongly about is Gaza. What is your views on it, and how will you represent the community's concern in that area?
I think the party has made its stance very clear and very early. I think that the party is calling for a two-state solution and immediate ceasefire to the violence. And I think this is very close to what the community is asking for in Gaza.
So I'm sure you've seen what Kelvin Cheng, former NMP, has said about the two women who went to the MPS. He has apologized for it. You think that this will be an issue that will affect the Malay Muslim vote during the next GE?
Of course, I don't agree with what Kelvin Cheng said. I can't speak on behalf of the Malay Muslim community. It's complex, but of course this is an issue which is important to many people. But I think my advice for Kelvin and my advice is that just exercise a little kindness, especially in this environment. I think that's what we need. Yeah, right. It's not this. It's kindness. Yeah.
So going into the contest, the GE that's upcoming. Another party has also said that they want to stand in Marine Parade, Braddell Heights, so that we're possibly looking at a three-cornered fight. What do you make of this multi-cornered fight?
I think people are always I think Singaporeans are very discerning, and I think it's good they have choices. leave it up to the voters to decide.
Okay. So, should you run, what would be your pitch to voters to vote your team and the WP?
I think it would depend on where we are, but I think I would ask them to look at our track record. We have a track record of managing the town councils. I also think that it's important that people have a voice, and I think it's important that we move towards a more mature economy where we have more voices in Parliament.
Okay. So, on that note, I wanted to ask you, if you should stand again, is there any concerns that you would have being as a party candidate?
I think one issue, I think it's not just a concern about me, right? I think it's a concern like all candidates will have. Because I think when we get closer to the election, we become caricatures. We want caricatures, like you're either the hero who will come and save Singapore, or you are the villain who will come and destroy Singapore. And it depends which side you're on, right? And I think that this sort of misses the point. I think that because I've spent a lot of time with my party members, right? And I know them. I've drank kopi with them. I've attended wakes of their loved ones. I attended weddings of their loved ones. So, and I have very good memories of them. And I think this will get lost. For example, take Nathaniel Goh, my buddy and my running mate from 2020. When you look at him, he's a very introvert, and you would think that he's a very introvert and quiet guy. But I see him going on the house visits, and he's always the first to go and approach residents, always the first. And he can talk with the residents for a long time, and I wonder how he do it. He does it, but he does it, you see. Other things like Jackson, right? There was one time where we were waiting for other people to finish, so we were just hanging out at the fitness corner. And then Jackson is very buff and very fit young man, and so we had but that day we had a pull-up challenge because we were waiting for everybody, and but I could match up with him. So the thing is, I thought he was just giving me face, but I was very happy that day. And then, of course, the man everyone is talking about, Harpreet Singh, right? Yeah, what else can you say about a Teochew speaking, saxophone playing senior counsel? Well, I have one more thing to say. And it's the time where we went and we sell the newsletter together. We went selling the newsletters, and we went to Geylang Serai Market, right? And he was telling me, you take the lead, I'll just support you, because he thought my Malay was better. His Malay is quite good also, but he thought my Malay was better. But I insisted, no, you go and sell, because everyone will look at him and be reminded of, the famous actor Shah Rukh Khan. And everyone will want to buy from him. So,
is that the comparison people are making?
I know, but that's the comparison I'm making.
Okay.
I think but it's true, and I was right, because he sold more newsletters than me. So there might be something there. So what am I trying to say? Because if you just go look at the election, right, all these things will be missed. And it's same for the opposition, and it's same for the PAP. All the candidates are like that, and beyond the manifestos, beyond the policies, beyond the debates, right? What is it that I strongly want for Singapore, right? Why is it I joined the Workers' Party? What is it that I want to achieve for Singapore via the Workers' Party? And it's basically a kinder Singapore, right? And I think during the election, and this is my concern, is that everyone forgets that. So I hope to all Singaporeans, this is my request, is that we set aside a little bit of kindness during the election. Because, and this is very important, I think, because, it doesn't matter if you wear white or you wear blue or any other color, right? Underneath that, it's a human being. And this human being has hopes and dreams for Singapore. You might not agree with him, you might not like him, but that's who he is. And I think that going to the election, we should try and exercise a little kindness. Yeah.
Okay. I totally agree with you on that. because I'm reading the online comments. I say this every episode that I read the online comments and I was like, oh no, we just need to be a lot nicer to each other, but you guys are actually on the ground and in person and meeting people.
Yeah, I think people are nicer in person than online. Yeah.
Okay, so that's it from me today. Thank you very much for the stories. I loved the bit about how you met your wife.
Thank you for having me here.
Well, now that we're officially in the 2025 general election season, you can expect hot takes and interviews with MPs and potential candidates and the usual place. Now, if you don't want to miss out, like, subscribe, or hit the notification bell on YouTube to get fresh content. Now, you can also catch this show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on the ST app. I'll see you next time at the usual place.